Hey, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I want to talk about how I figured out what I wanted to do for my career at the age of 18. So to give a little bit of context on me, I'm currently 28 years old. I work as a manager at Apple. I started my career 10 years ago at the age of 18 years old. And the first job that I took was as a part-time warehouse associate at a sortation center for Amazon in Kent, Washington. Now, when you hear career and me working that job at Amazon and me launching my career 10 years ago, go check out my previous video that I just dropped. It kind of breaks down my thought process when it comes to jobs versus career. I'm of the camp that the second you started working is when your career started, because that's when you started accumulating skills and you took on responsibilities and your resume really starts. And I believe that your career is a journey, not a destination, right? So your career is not something that's somewhere far in the distance that you're trying to strive for. If you're working, you're currently within your career, and it's a journey. You might not be in a space within that journey that you like, but it's part of like the process. And so that's just kind of my philosophy and belief. That's helped me get to where I'm at today. Now, to get on topic and talk about, how I figured out what I wanted to do at 18. Well, when I came out of high school at the age of 18, I took a different approach than most of my peers that are in this generation of Gen Z. Now, most of my peers, when we graduated, focused on, let's just go into university, let's just go to college, let's do this full time, let's go, take out student loans and pay these enormous costs to be able to get an education, to kind of figure out what might interest me for me to and what I kind of want to do. And that's what a lot of my peers did. Now me, kind of my approach, and I think I had this thought process because I swore off like taking out student loans, especially for my first 2 years of community college. I took a different approach. I told myself, I'm going to pay for college, community college, out of pocket. I knew I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew it would be a poor financial decision for me to take out loans or to go to school full time and not work, to try and go and get an education to help me figure out what I wanted to do. I just think that's a bad deal. And I thought it was a bad deal back then, right? Like when I thought about it, I was like, okay, I'm not going to be in the workforce, which means I'm not going to get work experience if I go to college full time. I'm going to take out student loans, or if I'm paying for it in full, I'm going to be having to pay for it out of pocket. I also have to factor opportunity cost. So if I'm not in the workforce, that's money I could have been making that I could have invested or I could have saved. Just all across the board financially, I thought it was a bad deal to try to go to school full time to figure out what I wanted to do. Like it's still today. It just doesn't make sense why people do that. So what I did instead was I took a job working part-time as an Amazon warehouse associate, and I placed all my energy and focus on getting as much experience as I could working out of Amazon's warehouse. And I challenged myself to do that while going to community college part-time and then just paying my way through community college. And that was the best decision I could have made. And the reason why it was the best decision I could have made was because pretty quickly working in Amazon's warehouse, did I start to figure out what I like about Amazon's warehouse kind of like structure, what I don't like. I started picking up different skills and I took on different projects and different responsibilities, all of which I was able to use on my resume to translate to future roles down the line in my career. And that was a wise decision because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And it didn't cost me anything. I was actually earning money to be able to figure out what I wanted to do. And I think a lot of people, if they took that approach, they would have been a lot further in their career versus not getting work experience, not getting paid to actually figure out what you want to do, and then just going to school to take out these tuition costs and then graduating and still not knowing what you want to do. It just, again, from a financial standpoint, it doesn't make sense. It never made sense to me personally. And I advocate for people not to do that. I advocate for a lot of people to go in, get work experience, because when you're working in an environment, you start working with different people, different personality types. You start to see what the company's focus and structure is. You start to see what kind of industry you're in. And nothing replaces like working like a job. Like nothing does. Like when you're working, like that is the game, right? You're not preparing for the game, like you're live in the game. I viewed college similar to practice in sports, right? When you go to college, like you're practicing and you're doing repetitions and you're, fine tuning some of your skill set, but there's nothing like actually working and having to deal with the manager, or having to deal with the supervisor, or having to navigate conflict with the coworker, or having to execute on certain metrics like that the company's like set, right? And so that was my focus, was let's just work. And again, I was getting paid to work, but also to figure out what I wanted to do. And when I was working in Amazon warehouse, like I thought that was a perfect job for me to really sit and figure out what I wanted to do, because so much of the work was just repetition, right? I'm in a hot box truck unloading packages onto a conveyor belt, and you're doing that part-time for a 4 to 5 hour shift. And I just had a lot of time to think. I'm thinking about what I like about this role, what I don't like about this role. I was thinking about, should I try this kind of job? Should I not try this job? I was able to think about different curriculum that I was learning like in school, and seeing how relevant it was to the current work that I was doing. There was just a lot of time to really think and really kind of just like meditate on like what I wanted out of life. And I knew quickly I did not want to work in Amazon's warehouse for 5, 10, 15 years. Like that was not going to be the end all. But I leveraged that and took all of the opportunities I could from that to parlay that into the next role. Did the same at that next role at a new company, and then transitioned that into the startup company that I was working at. And then when the startup company dissolved and I was unemployed, then I took that and I leveraged it to get to the position that I have now here at Apple. So again, the approach that I think a lot of people need to take is go in and get work experience, especially like if you're young. And this video is really for people that are, young 20s, because I think a lot of people that are in their young 20s, or like, their later teens, 18, 19, have been misguided. I think a lot of them have been misguided to think that if you just go to college, like you're going to be okay. And that's not the truth. I've led so many people at all the companies that I've worked at, where there's a lot of people that are within my generation that are frustrated because they went to college and they still don't know what they want to do. And then they're in a job that they don't want to do, and there's this frustration. But had you have done that at 18 and kind of just got that out of your system, out of the way, you probably would have been like in your career. And there's so many entry-level jobs that are available with only needing a high school diploma. Truly, right? Even in this like tough job market, there's a lot of like entry-level roles that you can get with just a high school diploma. Could be different retail roles. It could be different administrative roles. There's certain government jobs that, require minimum education or entry level. You got to do your research and figure out what they are. But you can get entry-level work just with a high school diploma, and you can start to get work experience and then start to analyze the industry that you're in to figure out, are the people that are like five positions above me, are these the kind of people that I want to be like, right? And then you start to analyze their career journey and how they got to where they're at. And then you start to seek out mentors within these organizations, which I did, to be able to get a real good pulse on like, is this an industry that I want to be in? Do I want to follow a similar career trajectory as them? All of that stuff you can only figure out when you get work experience. And so for me, work experience always trumps trying to go and get just an education. And I think the trap that a lot of people now that are a little bit older, and this is where I've kind of guided people away from, is there's a lot of people that have finished their undergraduate degree, they're working a job that they don't believe is their career. Again, broken kind of like perspective. I disagree with that perspective. And they're frustrated. They think they should be farther. They still don't know what they want to do professionally. And so they fall into the trap of like, hey, I'm going to go back to graduate school. I'm going to go back and get a master's degree. And by getting a master's degree, that somehow is going to show me what I want to do for my future, or make me more qualified for different positions that I might want. And that's, again, another trap, right? There's more opportunity costs, especially if you leave to the workforce. You're paying enormous tuition rates, and probably taking out more student loans. It's just not a good deal. And I think, again, a lot of people, if you can narrow down what is the type of work that you want to do by first getting work experience, any kind of work experience. I mean, you can take the most menial jobs, like the lowest of lowest kind of jobs, just to get some work experience under your belt. And you can analyze the aspects of the work that you like versus the aspects of the work that you don't like. And the thing is, no job's perfect, and I'll make a video on this too, because I don't believe any job's perfect. But after you've gotten enough work experience under your belt, you kind of figure out what you're willing to tolerate and what you're not willing to tolerate. And I prefer kind of getting that out of my system, especially like, in your early 20s. So that way, when you're starting to, hit later 20s, 30s, the next decades of your life, you're not having to go through that kind of like process. Like you're more cemented in who you are as a worker within corporate America, right? You're more grounded. You have stronger conviction in the type of career decisions you make, but it only comes from getting like work experience. And again, you can get work experience without having a college education, but I took a very different approach than a lot of my peers, and I see a lot of them still lost and wandering, trying to figure out what they want to do. And 10 years ago, you couldn't tell me that I would be doing what I'm doing today. It's all been a journey. Like from the first role that I took to where I'm at now, I'm like, wow, look at what has happened. Like look at what has occurred. Look at all this sequence of events that have taken place. And I would have imagined I would have been where I'm at today. And I don't regret that I dragged out doing college and doing that on the side and paid my way through school, right, through community college, to just focus on getting work experience and taking those jobs serious and getting mentors within these different organizations. Even though I knew I didn't want to be in the same like position that they were in, I consumed so much information and I developed so much, and I really was able to expedite my career. And I think a lot of people can do that if they just start focusing on the work experience that they have right now and really narrowing in on what they like and what they don't like, and not over focusing on just going to college and trying to get a college degree to try to figure out what you want to do or what might interest you. Again, just from a financial standpoint, it does not make sense to have to pay to figure out what you want to do. You want to get paid to be figuring out what you want to do. And if you flip that mindset, that first job that you get can honestly be your greatest tool to be able to fuel like your career, right? Because these jobs that you don't like, I'm talking like entry level roles, you learn so much about yourself and who you are as a worker, and you're getting compensated for that. And again, you're developing a deep like conviction within yourself around what you like and what you don't like. And it shapes how you pivot and move forward in accepting and taking on different roles at different like companies. And that's what I did. And that's how I was able to, land and be in my career and thriving at the age of 28. And all started for me having that mindset at the age of 18. So that's it for today's video. Hope it was helpful. I'll continue to make videos, discussing this topic around career, because I think a lot of people right now are struggling. I work with people that are in this space. I've worked with people, in previous companies that were in this space. There's a lot of people within my personal network that, are navigating this difficulty. And it's tough, right? Trying to figure out what you want to do, especially with the various amount of options that we have at our disposal now. I think a lot of people just got to get work experience and, take what they're currently doing seriously to start to learn more about themselves, and then really think about their careers as a journey, not a destination. Where you're at today is likely not going to be where you're going to be at in 5 years, but you got to take it all in stride and stay positive and kind of work through it to really be able to build out the career that you want for yourself. Because this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. The finish line is somewhere far in the distance. It's not right now. So that's it for today's video. Hope you liked the content. Hit the like button, subscribe. I'm going to continue to be dropping daily videos documenting my journey, navigating personal finance, my career. I have a new family, new wife. Was recently married last year, a newborn son. Just navigating my day-to-day life, and I want to build a community of people that want to ride with me on this journey. So that's it. Have a good day. Take care.